Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So little water. Hare Krishna. ये मैं करता था करता हुए हो गए करता जय राधमा धामा कुंज बिहारी अच्छा जय राधमा धामा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जाना वल्लभा वरधारी गोपी जाना वल्लभा वरधारी जय राधमा धामा कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा बनचारी यमुना तीरा बनचारी जय राधमा कुंज बिहारी जय राधमा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जाना वल्लभा वरधारी गोपी जाना वल्लभा वरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा बनचारी जय राधमा धामा कुंज बिहारी Gopi jana vallabha Givaradhari Sodanandana Braja Jana Randana Jamnatiya Vanachari Jamnatiya Vanachari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Govinda, 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 Govinda. Jai Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram. Jai Radha Shanta, Radha Shanta, Hare. Haribo, Haribo. Haribo, Haribo. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Jai Om Mr. Bhagavatam Divine Geshwara āviṣṭa-cetā Swami Srila Prabhupada Maharaj ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki, all glory to the Samad Lord, all glory to the Samad Lord, all glory to the Samad Lord, all glory to Sri Guru and Sri Guranga. एक और क्वेश्चन। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Does everybody know that there's a book marathon in ISKCON every year? You haven't forgotten? In most temples, the marathon has started. So we have selected a verse when the Prabhupada talks about real samadhi. This is literally what he says, real samadhi. So you want to hear that? Okay. Good. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 37. śṛṇvan gṛṇan saṁsmarayaṁ cintayan nāmāni rūpāṇi maṅgalāni kriyāsu yas tvat-caraṇāravindayor āviṣṭa-cetā bhavāya kalpate śṛṇvan gṛṇan saṁsmarayaṁś cintayan nāmāni rūpāṇi ca maṅgalāni te kriyāsu yas tvat-caraṇāravindayor āviṣṭa-cetā bhavāya kalpate śṛṇvan gṛṇan saṁsmarayaṁś cintayan nāmāni rūpāṇi ca maṅgalāni te kriyāsu yas tvat-caraṇāravindayor āviṣṭa-cetā bhavāya kalpate śṛṇvan gṛṇan saṁsmarayaṁś cintayan nāmāni rūpāṇi ca maṅgalāni te kriyāsu yas tvat-caraṇāravindayor āviṣṭa-cetā bhavāya kalpate
nāmāni rūpāṇi ca maṅgalāni te kriyāsu yas tvat-caraṇāravindayor āviṣṭa-cetā bhavāya kalpate
Read. Mataji. Word meaning.
śṛṇvan, constantly hearing about the Lord. śravaṇaṁ, kīrtanaṁ, viṣṇoḥ. gṛṇan, chanting or reciting the holy name of the Lord and his activities. saṁsmarayaṁ, remembering, constantly thinking of the Lord's lotus feet and his form. Cha and cintayan, contemplating the transcendental activities of the Lord. Nāmāni, his transcendental names. Rūpāṇi, his transcendental forms. Cha, also. maṅgalāni, which are all transcendental and therefore auspicious. Te, of your Lordship. Kriyāsu, in being engaged in the devotional service. Yah, he who. tvat-caraṇa-aravindayoḥ, at your lotus feet. āviṣṭa-cetā, the devotee who is completely absorbed in such activities. Not. bhavāya, for the material platform. Kalpate, is fit. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Even while engaged in various activities, devotees whose minds are completely absorbed at your lotus feet and who constantly hear, chant, contemplate and cause others to remember your transcendental names and forms are always on the transcendental platform, and thus they can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Purport.
How Bhakti Yoga can be practiced is explained in this verse. Srila Goswāmī has said that anyone who has dedicated his life to the service of the Lord, yaha yasya hare dasya, by his activities, his mind and his words, karmana manasa gira, may stay in any condition of life, nikhilas svapi avasthasu, and yet is no longer actually conditioned, but is liberated. Jivan muktasya uchate. Even though such a devotee is in a material body, he has nothing to do with this body, for he is transcendentally situated. Narayana paraha sarve na kutaschana vidyati. Because a devotee is engaged in transcendental activities, he is not afraid of being materially embodied. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Illustrating this liberated position, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, Mama janmani svare bhavatat bhaktir ahetuki dvai. All I want is your causeless devotional service in my life, birth after birth. Shikshastaka 4. Even if a devotee, by the supreme will of the Lord, takes birth in this material world, he continues his devotional service. When King Bharata made a mistake and in his next life became a deer, his devotional service did not not stop. Although some slight chastisement was given to him because of his negligence, Narad Muni says that even if one falls from the platform of devotional service, he is not lost. Whereas non-devotees are lost entirely because they are not engaged in service. Bhagavad Gita 9:14 therefore recommends that one always engage at least in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantyascha vidavrataha nāmāni mam bhakta nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, the brave souls perpetually worship me with devotion. One should not give up the process of devotional service, which is performed in 9 different ways: śṛavaṇaṁ, kīrtanaṁ, viṣṇoḥ smarayaṁ, pādasevanam, etc. The most important process is hearing, śṛavaṇaṁ, from the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, the spiritual master, the saintly acharyas and the Vedic literature. Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chittete Puriya Aikya. We should not hear the commentaries and explanation of non-devotees, for this is strictly forbidden by Srila Sanatana Goswāmī, who quotes from the Padma Purana, Avaishnava Mukhodgirnam Putam Harikathamritam śṛavaṇaṁ naiva kartavyam śṛdvochishtam yathāvayaha. We should strictly follow this injunction and never try to hear from Mayavadis, impersonalists, voidists, politicians or so-called scholars. Strictly avoiding such inauspicious association, we should simply hear from pure devotees. Srila Rupa Goswāmī therefore recommends Shri Guru Padashrayaha. One must seek shelter at the lotus feet of a pure devotee who can be one's Guru. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises that a Guru is one who strictly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Jare dakho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 7:128. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 7:128. A juggler, a magician, or one who speaks nonsense as an academic career is not a guru. Rather, a guru is one who presents Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's instructions as it is. Śṛavana is very important. One must hear from the Vaishnava Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. The word kriyāsu, meaning by manual labor or by work, is important in this verse. One should engage in practical service to the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, all our activities are concentrated upon distributing Krishna literature.
Please hear this carefully. A proper talk. Read that line again.
In our Krishna consciousness movement, all our activities are concentrated upon distributing Krishna literature. This is very important. One may approach any person and induce him to read Krishna literature so that in the future he also may become a devotee. Such activities are recommended in this verse. Kriyāsu tvat-caraṇāravindayoḥ. Such activities will always remind the devotees of the Lord's lotus feet. By fully concentrating on distributing books for Kṛṣṇa, one is fully absorbed in Kṛṣṇa. This is samadhi.
So you know what samadhi is? Samadhi doesn't mean closing your eyes and falling asleep. Om Ajnānatimirandasya Jnānanjanashalakya Chakshurmilitanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manavestam Stavitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadavayam Radhi Swapadadikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamśta Shri Rūpāṃ Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Prajana Saitam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dheerabandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Harebhye āviṣṭa kalpate āviṣṭa Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Paritānaṁ Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Hare Krishna. So in this chapter, demigods are offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. And the demigods had prayed that the Lord may appear. So in these verses, in this section of the Bhagavatam, the demigods are glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His various qualities, and presenting, as Prabhupada says in the opening lines of this purport, the path of Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada says, how Bhakti Yoga can be practiced and explained in this verse. So, Rupa Shukadeva Goswami, the demigods are explaining how Bhakti Yoga can be practiced. And Bhakti Yoga can be practiced by executing devotional service in 9 different ways. What is the famous verse? śṛṇvaṇam kīrtanaṁ viṣṇoḥ smaranam padasevanam āśam vandam tasya sakyam atmanavedam. This was first explained by Narada Muni when Prahlāda was in his mother's womb. And when Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlāda, of all the knowledge that you're obtaining in your school, what is the best? And he replied by reciting the 9-fold process of devotional service. So we read about this again and again, the 9-fold process. It begins with śṛavaṇaṁ and kīrtanaṁ. So śṛavaṇaṁ and kīrtanaṁ forms the basis of a spiritual life. And śṛavaṇaṁ kīrtanaṁ is emphasized again and again and again and again. Just like in this verse it is said, the Bhakti Yoga starts with the process of śṛavaṇaṁ and kīrtanaṁ. And the nature of a devotee is that he wants to chant all the time. We saw that when Lord Chaitanya was cleaning the Gundicha temple with his associates, they were communicating just with their hands, and they were constantly chanting the holy name. There was no other talk except chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and executing the cleaning operation. So Prabhupada says in the purport that perfection is, while doing our duty, we also take part in śṛavaṇaṁ kīrtanaṁ. And in the verse it is said, who constantly hear, contemplate, and cause others to remember. So chanting and listening is important. But if this is done, then what does it lead to? Vishnu's quantum. So the devotee knows that if I want to make progress on the spiritual path, I should give maximum importance to the process of hearing and chanting. And hearing and chanting will lead to remembrance of the Lord. śṛṇvan kīrtanam viṣṇoḥ. Now we have so much to remember. Just like this is the month of Kartik, and as you know, Kartik is the most auspicious of all the 12 months. And in this month, several wonderful pastimes of the Lord have been exhibited. One is the Damodar Leela. We sing the Damodar every day. The Damodar Leela. Mother Yashoda would regularly get complaints. Your son comes to our house and steals the butter. And Kṛṣṇa has many names. And one of his names is Makanchor. What does Makanchor mean? If somebody called you chore, you'd be ready to fight with him. But devotees, when they call the Lord Makanchor, the Lord derives great pleasure. And he was a thief of the caliber that no one could ever catch him. Once, the neighboring gopis had gone to the Yamuna to bring water. And the Lord's and Mother Yashoda's, she was Mother Yashoda's neighbor. So Kṛṣṇa with his friends, which included the son of the gopi in whose house they were stealing butter, that lady, the gopi, came back a little ahead of schedule. And she caught Kṛṣṇa red-handed stealing butter. So she said, your mother always says, where's the proof that my son was stealing? Now I have the proof. I caught him red-handed stealing the butter. And she said, come on, I'm going to drag you to Mother Yashoda. So she held Kṛṣṇa, she dragged Kṛṣṇa with her right hand, and right next to Kṛṣṇa was the gopi's son, who was holding on to Kṛṣṇa's right hand, because Kṛṣṇa's left hand was in the grip of this elderly gopi. But what Kṛṣṇa did as they were walking, very smartly, he took his hands out of her grip, and he placed it with her son's hand. So when they reached Mother Yashoda's house, she said, you always wanted proof? Here's the proof. Your son, I caught him stealing red-handed. And Mother Yashoda said, my son? He's eating butter over there. That's your son. So Kṛṣṇa was a thief who never got caught. So Mother Yashoda was churning butter. And as she was churning butter, she was reciting a poem that she had written. she had written a poem glorifying Krishna's superhuman activities. Krishna had already killed some demons by the time the Damodar Leela started. And so she composed a song in which these different pastimes of the Lord were mentioned. So the verse also talks about śravaṇaṁ and kīrtanaṁ leading on to viṣṇoḥ, remembrance of the Lord. And Prabhupada, in the purport of this pastime, he says, this should be the mood of a devotee. Engage in service, but at the same time, think about the Lord and describe the Lord's pastime. So, Krishna had already killed some demons. So Mother Yasoda was composing that song. But in her mind, she had suspicion. What was her suspicion? Maybe the neighboring gopis have better butter than I have. So she was churning the rod very attentively, and it was early in the morning, and her goal was to get the butter ready before her son wakes up. And Mother Yasoda, Nand Maharaj, had 900,000 cows. Can you imagine? We have a Goswāmī with about 500 cows. But Mother Yasoda, Nand Maharaj, he had 900,000 cows. Can you imagine? And out of these 900,000 cows, over 100 cows gave scented, flavored milk. Today's society, if you want to add flavor to your milk, the different flavors you can put, like vanilla, strawberries, etc. But in Kṛṣṇa's time, Nand Maharaj had special cows, and these cows would just give milk that Mother Yasoda would use to make butter for her son. And because these cows were also fed flavored grass, the milk that came out was also flavored. So she was spinning the rod, and her son got up. Her son got up, started crying, "Where is mother? Where is mother? Why did she leave me alone?" But the mother in the neighboring room was boiling butter, boiling milk. It was again to be used to make butter for the Lord. So, the Lord came there, and the mother started feeding the son. But then the milk was overboiling. So she had to leave her son and go to attend to the milk. But this milk was also very special milk that was being boiled to eventually make butter, for the Supreme Lord. So the mother had to attend to this milk, which greatly annoyed the Lord, who made a hole in the pot. He threw a stone, and the butter that came out, he just distributed it to the monkeys. So Mother Yasoda knew whose mischief this is. The Lord's footprints were there, and she chased. It's a long story, I'm just giving you a summary. And she chased her son, and she finally managed to catch hold of him. The mother had a stick in her hand because she wanted to discipline her son. she was getting constant complaints, and she thought, at least I should discipline my miserable son. But then she saw, she caught hold of the Lord. Prabhupada says that the mystic yogis also can't understand the Lord. And she saw that if I use the stick, my son may not like it. She said, okay. She threw the rod away. She said, I'll tie him down. That was a lesser punishment than using a stick. So she tried to tie her son down, and with the rope, with the first rope, and how many fingers short was it? Two. She then took on additional ropes, and the ropes she tied one after another. But every time she added a rope, no doubt the rope became longer, but it was still 2 fingers short. And she was getting a little frustrated. The elderly gopis were watching and saying, look at Mother Yasoda. She can't even tie her small son down. So the Lord finally agreed to be tied. Now what do these 2 fingers represent? These 2 fingers, as you probably know, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and the other acharyas, it has a symbolic message. One is, the one finger represents that you can't, if you want to understand the Lord, you have to make an effort. You can't expect that I'll make spiritual advancement without making an effort. So you have to make an effort. And then if you make an effort, then the Lord will reciprocate and give you the ability to understand Him. If you think that, oh, I'm just reciting in Vrindavan, I'm just doing this, we have to make an effort. And the effort means taking part in devotional activities. And if you take part in devotional activities, ye samam prapadyante. Kṛṣṇa says, all of them, as it's surrendered to me, I reward them accordingly. So one figure represents we have to make an effort. And if we make a genuine effort, and what does that effort, how is it executed? Through the process of chanting and hearing. Chanting and hearing is our most important activity. And our entire devotional foundation is based on chanting and hearing. And if you make an effort, the Lord will reciprocate. So, the verse is explaining that the demigods are praying that, my dear Lord, you are also glorified by the process of chanting and hearing. And if your chanting and hearing is regular, then you will have the capacity to remember the pastimes of the Lord. So, this was Dhamma part 1 in a summary. So Kṛṣṇa was tied to the wood and mortar. And then the Kavara Manikriva, the 2 sons of Kavara, were very intoxicated. And one day, Narada Muni was passing by, and these sons of Kṛṣṇa, you generally see children of rich families getting polluted faster. So they were drunk, playing with females, And they didn't have the courtesy to cover their body in front of a great stage like Narada. But the ladies who were there had the decency to do it. So Narada Muni thought, let me teach them a lesson. They are intoxicated, standing like trees. So he cursed them and blessed them. May you become trees for 100 celestial years in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. I'm sure none of you would mind that. For example, remember the tree that we have in this complex inside. Very fortunate. You go to one arti a day and you think you've done your quota. This tree stands and attends every arti. 100% attendance. So, here's every Bhagavatam class. It's always on time. This tree is so fortunate. So these two, they become trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. But the Lord remembered, my devotee Narada has given this commitment that after 100 celestial years, they will be able to see me. So the Lord pulled up the mortar and he made the two trees fall. Now the two trees came, the sons of Kṛṣṇa. They acknowledged the mercy of their spiritual master Narada Muni. They accepted that by Narada Muni's mercy, they are able to see the Lord. And then, you want to compete with a bell. Does everyone know the significance of these bells ringing? This concept was introduced by Prabhupada. Prabhupada got up once at 3 o'clock in the night and he saw the watchman was sleeping in front of his house. So Prabhupada wanted a watchman to be attentive. So he figured a very unique plan. Every hour they have to ring the bell. So they have to ring the bell every hour, the chances of them sleeping are minimum. So they acknowledged the mercy of the spiritual master Narada Muni. And then they said, from now onwards may our tongues constantly glorify you. May our ears constantly hear your glories. May we always remember your pastimes. So they said from now onwards. So similarly, before coming to Krishna consciousness, we all had bad habits, we were lazy and so on. But now that we've come to the real knowledge, with the association of devotees and proper books, we should be exemplary and we should improve our spiritual surrender. We should improve our practice of the devotional principles and then we can make spiritual advancement. So, remembrance. So we can remember so many wonderful pastimes of the Lord. Like in this month of Kartik, so many pastimes of the Lord took place. Kṛṣṇa lifting the Govardhan hill. We celebrated that a few days ago. That's also a very significant pastime of the Lord. The Lord displays superhuman activities. Janma karma cha me. So Krishna's appearance and disappearance are both transcendental. In the Govardhan Puja Leela we see that Indra retaliated by pouring a heavy rainfall He ordered the Samataka clouds to go over Vrindavan. And when the rain was pouring, each drop was as heavy as a pillar. And the Brajbasis were in anxiety. What do we do? The Lord said, do not worry. And the Govardhan hill at that time, in height, was so tall that the top portion would be touching the sky. Now when you see the Govardhan hill, does it appear that tall as touching the sky? No. But at that time, the hill was so tall that the top of the hill was touching the sky. And Kṛṣṇa displayed one of his superhuman activities. He lifted the Govardhan hill with the smallest finger of his left hand, actually just with the nail of the smallest finger of his left hand. And the entire Brajbasis came under his umbrella. The Brajbasis were worried that the big mountain may fall. After Krishna was just a young boy of 5 years old when he displayed his Leela. But then Krishna said, don't worry, this mountain is not going to fall off my finger. And for the 1 week period, the Brajbasis were constantly just looking at Krishna's face. And looking at the Lord's face, they were so satisfied that they didn't experience any hunger or any thirst. It was 7 days and 7 evenings. Not a drop of water, nirjal. No, but they were fully satisfied. They were just seeing, meditating on the Lord's face. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj says, I'm getting so much nectar hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam that I don't feel any hunger or thirst. Parikshit Maharaj was in the forest experiencing, he was very thirsty. He wanted water to drink. And he saw a hut where he could see some light. And there was a sage inside, practiced meditation. Parikshit Maharaj was not just an ordinary king, he was a Raj Rishi. Raj Rishi means king and who is spiritual. So when the king walked into the saint's hermitage, he expected that he would be invited, he would be greeted. Generally, even if an enemy comes to your house, we should receive him very nicely. The best is we can make him sit and offer him prasad. If you can't do that, you can make him sit down and offer him water. If we can't do that, offer him sweet words of welcome. But at least do something. In Vrindavan, Prabhupada told us on numerous occasions, he wanted us to serve hot prasad to everyone who came in. He said, Prabhupada liked the Golden Temple model. So anyway, so Parikshit Maharaj, the sage was in meditation, he didn't even see. He didn't even pay any attention to the king. And the king in anger left. He saw a dead snake that he wrapped around the sages. And when the son discovered what had happened, he cursed the king. So Parikshit Maharaj was fasting for 7 days. And he addressed Shukadeva Goswami and he said, please describe more and more the glories of the Supreme Lord. Because he said, even though I'm thirsty, even though I've been fasting, I'm not feeling any thirst or hunger. So, if we practice Krishna consciousness, engage in Krishna conscious activities, then we will also not feel a material thirst and material hunger. In today's society, everyone is materially hungry and materially thirsty. We are endeavoring from one activity to another. Prahlad Maharaj says, Nātha vidam sparsa gatam viṣṇoḥ. People do not know how real happiness can be found. And we keep experimenting, thinking that this next activity is going to give me pleasure. But what happens in the end? Do you get any satisfaction? No. And these days, people all over the world are getting a good taste of what a virus can do. Isn't it? Virtually all over the world, this coronavirus is proving to be very destructive. First came the first wave, and everyone said, oh, okay, now the wave's over. But then there was the second wave, and now in some parts of India and some parts of the world, the virus has come in for a third wave. Now the people are thinking, the vaccination is now discovered. They have come up with many companies, the pharmaceutical companies are racing to get this ready. And it appears that the American Pfizer company's vaccination is probably going to be the other. But anyway, now the people are thinking, oh, we're going to get this vaccination. That's going to be a cure to all problems. I've spoken to people who haven't moved out of their apartment or house for 8-9 months. And they have no plans to move till the vaccination comes in the market. So if the vaccination comes in the market, the manufacturers claim it's going to be 95% effective. But that's not going to be the end of miseries. There'll be another virus. Just like over 70, 80 years ago, there was a Spanish flu. And the symptoms for Spanish flu are exactly the same what they are for the current virus. So, misery and everything is temporary, will always be there. So the solution is a spiritual solution, not a material solution. In the material world, we keep endeavoring and thinking that this is the next step is going to satisfy me. In the desert, the dog, the animal sees a mirage. He's thirsty. But at a distance I can see some water. Chases the mirage and eventually dies. So unfortunately, most of the people are born in ignorance, live in ignorance, and they die in ignorance. But as Lord Chaitanya explained to Rupa Goswami, Brahmanda Brahmede Koro Bhagavano Ji, Guru Krishna Kripa Pai, Bhakti Radha. After going through many thousands of births and deaths, is he that fortunate soul who receives Bhakti Radha Beej. And that Bhakti Radha Beej needs to be watered. And the process of watering is being described in this verse. By through the process of śṛṇvan kīrtanaṁ. And then the Lord said, we should stay in devotee association. Devotee association is very important if you want to make spiritual advancement. So, the Bhakti Lata Beej begins to grow. Bhakti Lata Beej means knowledge that Bhakti Yoga is a key process for developing love of God. And it will grow through the watering process. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, we should make a strong fencing around us. Just like you see, people have boundary walls. Why do they have boundary walls? So that undesirable elements may not come in easily. So, we should make a fencing, stay in devotee association. That is very important. And then this will grow, become a beautiful garden. But the beautiful garden can be spoiled. How? When a mad elephant comes in. So that means the mad elephant represents Vaishnava path. We should, on the devotional path, be very cautious and avoid Vaishnava path, especially in the month of Kartik. Kartik is the name of Radharani. And it is said that in the month of Kartik, if you do offenses, you get like a reaction multiplied 1,000-fold. So we should be very careful. So the process of Bhakti Yoga is being explained in this verse. And Prabhupada cites the example of Bharat Maharaj, who made a mistake and the next life became a deer. Bharat Maharaj was the emperor of the whole planet. That's why this planet is also known as Bharatvarsha, because at that time the environment was so conducive, people were so happy. In Ram Rajya, you could even choose your own moment of death. Do you have that facility today? If you had that facility today, the funeral homes would all go out of business. Because I don't think anybody would choose a moment of death. So, Bharat Maharaj, he renounced everything, beautiful wife, children, and went to the forest. And he saw a she-deer who was pregnant, was being chased by a lion. And in that chase, the mother died, but the baby was delivered. Bharat Maharaj happened to see this pastime, and he thought maybe it's the will of providence that, and he started taking care of the baby deer, and as you know, he got excessively attached. As a result, yamam vapi smaran bhavam. Wherever your mind is at the moment of death, that's where you go. He became a deer. But he had also done devotional service, so he didn't have to stay for long as a deer, and he took his birth as a Brahmin, in a Brahmin family, and he was known as Jat Bharat. And as Jat Bharat, he was so determined. Now I will not repeat the mistake that I've done in the past. And he behaved in society as if he was deaf and dumb. But when the occasion arose, he spoke like a lion to King Raghunatha. And King Raghunatha, who had chastised him, got down from his palanquin, fell at his feet, and said, "Please excuse me. You're a great sage." And eventually he took shelter of him. So the point that we're making is, that Prabhupada is making, that devotional service is so powerful that even if you make a mistake like King Bharat did, the Lord still helps you to recover. And the Lord still gives you facility to continue devotional service. So, the Prabhupada made the point about the importance of the ninefold paths of devotional service. Now, in the concluding lines of the purport, Prabhupada stresses and talks about book distribution. I'll just read those 3 lines again. One may approach any person and induce him to read Krishna literature so that in the future he may also become a devotee. As you all know, this movement is based on śṛṇvan and also book distribution. Why did Prabhupada emphasize book distribution? Not to make money. He emphasized book distribution, and he says very clearly in this verse, one may approach any person and induce him to read Krishna literature so that in the future he may become a devotee. So we give books out. Why? They don't have to become a devotee the next day. But eventually it has an influence on them. Sometimes devotees say, oh, we distributed 2 lakh books in the marathon. So what are the results? You don't expect, if you did 2 lakh books, next month you'll have 2 lakh new bhaktas. No. But book distribution, we are planting the seed. And if at all you see today, the congregation of devotees expanding in almost every corner of the world, that is the result of book distribution. That is the result of preaching. And so one should never think that book distribution is not beneficial. There are stories where the books were lying in someone's house for 8-10 years and he never opened it. And after 10 years he opened it and he saw the result. So Prabhupada says in his purport, such activities always remind the devotee of the Lord's lotus feet by fully concentrating on distributing books for Kṛṣṇa. What are Prabhupada's books? We say Prabhupada's books. But if you analyze, there's nothing about Prabhupada in the books. It's all about Kṛṣṇa. The verses are spoken by Kṛṣṇa. The glorification is about Kṛṣṇa. The transcendental qualities are about Kṛṣṇa. So one should not think, when we mention Prabhupada's books, we are promoting Prabhupada in any way. But we are promoting the true message being present as it is. Prabhupada had many achievements. One of them was, he presented the Lord's message as it is, without any distortion or adulteration. When he was in New York, when he entered New York, to establish this movement, he was approached by many so-called sannyasis, sadhus, who were advising Prabhupada not to be so rigid, to become westernized like they were, but he refused to compromise. When ISKCON was being established, many people called this International Society for God Consciousness. Prabhupada said, no! God has to be specific. And he mentioned Kṛṣṇa. So Prabhupada did not adulterate Krishna's teachings. That's why the Bhagavad Gita as it is the most popular Gita ever done. And so many people all over the world have become devotees by reading these books. So, distributing these books, one becomes fully absorbed in Kṛṣṇa. And Prabhupada says, this is samadhi. So samadhi, the real samadhi is concentrating on serving Kṛṣṇa. And of the various services that we can execute, one of the most important services, book distribution. So every year we have this book marathon. Is that right? But most temples this year have already started the marathon because they do not know how the virus is going to behave in the month of December. And while things are still stable, they want to take advantage of it. So all of you, some of you are probably part of Vrindavan, some of you are probably visiting, you came for the festival. All of you should dedicate yourself to helping distribute these books. And Prabhupada said, by reading these books, by distributing these books, eventually you will come to, eventually they'll become devotees. That's why Prabhupada emphasized his books. Prabhupada used to recite at the Radhananda temple. He had a broken typewriter. Broken. And he would go on a tanga from Vrindavan to Mathura, catch a train, third-class compartment. You don't even have third class anymore. And go to Delhi and struggle, and he produced these books. It was a one-man army. We today, we don't have to bother translating these books. We don't have to go to the printer. We don't have to go anywhere. We get these books neatly printed, packed up, ready-made product. Imagine if we had to do everything. So we should, all of us, take part in this book distribution marathon. And that is real samadhi. Sometimes people think samadhi means closing your eyes and falling asleep. When you're, so real samadhi, Prabhupada says, is when you're engaged in preaching and distributing his books. That is real samadhi. So we should take this very seriously and try and help distribute Prabhupada's books. This is an activity that you should do year-round, especially Prabhu Bandgaro. Who's playing this? And especially take part in the book marathon. So to summarize the verse, in the verse we read, the demigods are praying to the Lord. The demigods are saying that you can be pleased by the process of chanting and hearing and by the process of remembering you. So we have so many pastimes, we just mentioned two in brief, but there are unlimited pastimes of the Lord, unlimited pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, unlimited pastimes of Prabhupada. Meditate on this. And if you meditate on these pastimes, your mind will be protected. Become my devotee. Think of me. Offer homage unto me. And you'll come back to me. Yat karoshi yat asnasi, ajhoti darasiyat. Yat tapasvati konte yat Kṛṣṇa. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give away, should all be done as an offering unto me. So that is the summary of the Vedic message, that all our actions should be dedicated for the pleasure of the Lord. And Prabhupada's books contain nothing but knowledge on the importance of these books, and it gives us Vedic knowledge that if we take advantage of it, we'll be able to make spiritual advancement. So let us enthusiastically be enthusiastic in taking part in book distribution. Many devotees around the world are enthusiastic. And I've noticed one thing over the years. In this month of Gita Jayanti, even the lazy devotees become active. I've seen that phenomenon in ISKCON. So, we want to request everyone, please take part in book distribution. Prabhupada in Vrindavan said, as long as book distribution goes on, I'll never die. That means through these books, he'll go on preaching. And in the purport we read today, Prabhupada says, this is samadhi, very strong way. So let us engage in samadhi activity. We have a samadhi here. But another samadhi is meditating on the orders of the Lord. And that is what Prabhupada wanted us to do. And devotees are doing it. So please take part and perfect your life. Hare Krishna. Now, 9:30, so any questions, comments? Any comments? When we give any comments? Yeah, give the mic. Yeah.
That's the spirit, our Christmas marathon, or this
Why is everybody leaving?
This December marathon is very, very important. I remember in Miami, we spent 15 years in Miami Airport, and every day we go on book distribution. But at December time, everyone would go out with great enthusiasm, knowing that Prabhupada's books can save the jiva soul from rotting in hell and rotting in this material world. And it was an inspiration for everyone, knowing that Prabhupada wrote these books for the benefit of freeing all the conditioned souls. So Sankirtan means glorification of the Lord, giving people a chance to have a book, read the book, and save their lives. Hare Krishna.
Shri Kezi, you want to say a few words?
I was with Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles in the 1972, early 1973. When there was a young brahmachari, he would give me a sheet of paper every evening. And he would show all the different books that were distributed. So this went on one day, next day, and then finally Prabhupada was looking, he said, who is this brahmachari? It was Rameshwar. It was brahmachari at the time. So he was at the very forefront of encouraging the book distribution.
My book.
And then of course, himself, Rameshwar and Tripurari, they became a big force in the USA in book distribution. And what did Prabhupada call Tripurari? He said he was the
incarnation of book
distribution. So this is how important books distribution was to Srila Prabhupada, that those that were distributing the book, they immediately became recognized by Srila Prabhupada. And no matter how many books were distributed, he would say, now you can double it. There was never any end to that you were distributing enough. It was always, well, now double it. So that was Prabhupada's vision.
Now we reach so high in India, it's impossible to double it. Some temples.
But the desire is there.
Yeah. Desire at least make the effort. Any questions? Yeah. We're going to end up in Father's 9:30, so. Can you speak louder?
What is more special, like attachment to a Vaishnava spiritual master or attachment to Krishna?
Attachment to?
Krishna and the Vaishnavas.
Attachment to spiritual master doesn't mean you can't be attached to Vaishnavas and your seva. The spiritual master desire that a candidate get attached to the Lord and get detached to everything material. You follow? You understand? If you're attached to the spiritual master, means being attached to his instruction. Attachment is not that you give the spiritual master a garland and he's pleased. He's more pleased when you're doing what Prabhupada wants us to do. Okay? Okay, we stop now. Paramajayate.